911, what's your emergency?
Yeah, this is Hank on Old Gray Road.
What is it this time, Hank?
It's the Bigfoot again. He's back. He's just standing there.
You're listening to You Had Me at Bigfoot with your hosts, Tom.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And Dustin.
You know, that's how they get you.
Remember, you can always contact the show via Twitter at You Had Me Podcast, on Facebook, You Had Me Podcast, or by email, contact at youhadmeatbigfoot.com. Now your hosts, Tom and Dustin.
You were on death row, and you were about to be executed, and you were asked what your final words were. What would your final words be?
Before I die, can you please tell me how many fingers aliens use while probing?
You don't get like special treatment just because you're about to die.
I would forfeit my meal and everything.
For the knowledge of how many fingers?
For the knowledge of the fingers.
That's when the warden unzips his face mask and it's actually an alien the whole time. You were the only human being. Everyone else around you was aliens.
A reptilian.
I think we just solved the mystery of reptilians.
Speaking of reptilians, did you see that Joe Arpaio's running for senator?
I did. I saw that. That's it. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun one. I wonder who's he going to replace. Well, I guess
Flake.
Jeff Flake, yeah, because McCain isn't. I don't know if he was going to primary John McCain. When is John McCain up for?
When he dies.
So, not soon enough, I guess. That dude lingers. All right. So, what are we? What else has been going on? Let's do a little bit of like recap of what's been going on over. It's been a while since we've recorded. What interesting stuff has happened in the world of the weird? Nothing weird has been going on in the world? Okay.
I mean, what you tell me.
The new season of Black Mirror came on.
I've never watched the show, but I've heard it's really good.
I will say this about Black Mirror. That show, I gauge how good the episode is. I gauge how good the episode was based on how uncomfortable I am at the end of it. Because it has a way of making you feel really, really uncomfortable just with the situation. It's not like something normal that you're like, oh, I would hate to be in the same room as a serial killer. You know, like it's, I would hate to be turned into an email. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like how the show plays out is you get turned into a reoccurring digital representation of yourself for an eternity.
Forever.
Yeah, and that's weird to me.
I've been watching a lot of Ghost Adventures.
Yeah? With old Zach Baggins?
Zach. Speaking of which, we need to go to Vegas to his museum.
I watched that video or that episode of him showing off his... Yeah. I don't remember why I was watching it.
Because it's awesome.
I'll be honest, I don't like Zach Baggins.
I know, you tell me all the time.
And I don't think it's all the time. I mean, I probably said it like 2 or 3 times.
I think I'm going to get an autographed picture of him and put it
right on your desk.
Right in front of me.
And I'll just take it down every time you leave.
As long as it's back up when I come over.
I'll put a Nick Groff one up, since there's that rivalry between the two of them.
Nick Groff is nothing without Zach Baggins.
Nick Groff has like 3 shows.
He's nothing without Zach Baggins.
Zach Baggins runs around drawing X's on the floor to set up cameras.
He probably makes a lot more money still.
Zach Baggins, you think?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm going to Google it.
Somebody Google it.
So Zach Baggins just recently signed a 3-year deal worth $5 million.
Mm-hmm. What did Nick Groff get?
0.
Well, from Ghost Adventures, obviously, but what about from Ghost of Shepherdsville? What about Paranormal Lockdown? What about You Had Me at Nick Groff?
What?
It's the program that I'm doing, my solo program, where I just talk about Nick Groff all the time.
The overall net worth of Nick Groff is $1 million. And that was in March of 2017.
Well, I stand corrected then.
I wish my net worth was $1 million.
I wish my net worth was $100. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I wish I had that much.
That's very true for you.
But the thing about...
I mean, you own land in Scotland.
I do. I found the other ones. So I do have all 4 square feet of Scotland. Islay Island.
Did I say Scotland? Yeah, I said Scotland.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you always have that.
I do. I could move there and live in my 4-foot.
You should probably get that in your will.
I'm going to see how many I can get before I start putting... I'll just leave like a little blank spot where it says so-and-so is entitled to my blank.
Do you think you could start a civil war for your land in Scotland?
What I need to do is I need to make sure it's on the coast so I can park a boat there and then have a house, and that way, you know, people can't come and go through my part of the ocean
Yeah.
or my part of the
start
beach.
a navy.
Yeah. And throughout time, we will take Islay Island.
Sounds good to me.
What else? That wasn't my question. You know what else I like? Stan versus Evil. Or Stan against Evil.
Yeah, I've seen like 1 or 2 episodes of it.
It's... If you just watch 1 or 2 episodes of it, you'll be disappointed. It's almost like an exorcism. You have to finish it once you start it for it to take the full effect. It's a fun show though. It's obviously a cheap knockoff of Ash versus Evil Dead, but it's without the backstory. But
I like Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
that one's pretty silly.
It's funny.
That one's good. What else is good?
I've got the Conjuring 2 recorder. I need to watch it.
Oh, what, on DVR?
Yeah.
You have HBO?
I had a freebie, so I recorded it.
You have expressed written consent from HBO to have recorded it?
No.
HBO. Hello. I'm going to tell my friend here he downloaded Conjuring.
Hello.
All right, what are we talking about today?
Executions.
Executions.
Boom, boom.
We're taking a break from our normal type show, and which is normally like, you know, maybe stuff that maybe exists, and we're going into a topic that is unfamiliar territory to us, stuff that is real. We're going to be talking about executions today, things that actually happened, and there is historic data.
Fate of a nation in your hands, and blessed be the children who fight with
I've been thinking about this
all
song a lot
bravery,
lately.
till only the righteous stand. You see the distant flames, they bellow in the night. You fight in all our
And that's
names for what
executions.
we know is right.
Yeah, they
And when you all get
I've been thinking about that song a lot lately. I don't know why. I don't know why it popped into my head the other day, but maybe because I've been thinking about executions.
Executing people.
Yeah. No, that song. Executing people hasn't been running through my head, but I have been reading about it lately. So maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But it actually started when I was looking up. So it must have been about a year or two ago. I was actually reading about beheadings and how long after the beheading takes place you are aware of, you know, what's going on around you. It's a very difficult thing to test, and it's certainly difficult to test now because nobody in a scientific capacity is beheading people. So we either go off of, you know, ISIS testimony, or we go off of what was learned way back in the day. And
Because wasn't there like way back in the day, wasn't there like 2 doctors and the one was dying of cancer? So he said, chop my head off, and if I can still function, I'll blink at you twice.
okay, yep, and we're going to talk about that guy.
Okay.
He wasn't. I don't think he was dying of anything, but he was actually.
Suicidal.
No, he was sentenced to death.
Oh, okay.
and he had his buddy come to the beheading or to the guillotine and said, "Hey, all right, keep a record." But there were a lot of those, and we're going to talk about a few of them. A lot of different doctors, scientists, and everything way back when, and during the time that the guillotine was actually like regularly used, who said, "Hey, you know, I know I'm going to eat it, so I might as well go out providing something to the scientific community. So we are gonna. That's what got me into it, and then I started thinking about all the other executions methods, and botched executions, dying words of death row inmates, just all the interesting, fun, wholesome family stuff.
Did you know there's a website you can go to?
Yeah, and I've read it.
The Texas, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep. It's depressing as hell. If you read it, if you read through them all, you're like, man, why did I even get into this?
I've laid in bed many a nights, just starting from the most recent and just reading through them.
There are some where you read them, and then you start to feel guilty about reading them.
Yeah,
you can feel the hurt in their words. Yeah,
but there's other ones that you
really
read
funny.
And you're like, this dude's a bastard and he deserved to die.
I like the ones where they're like, all right, Warden, let's do it.
Yeah.
Or
roll on, Warden. Go on, boss.
That's the one.
Roll on, boss.
Those guys are funny. And I got a lot of respect for them. Anyone who's on their way to their death and they're just like,
screw it, let's do it.
Yeah, those guys are pretty cool to me.
But I think if you're on death row, you've pretty much accepted, right?
Some people have. I mean, obviously, you're going to have some of the people who are, who are to their death, who are like, I'm totally innocent, even though they know damn good and well that they are not innocent.
I'd be crying.
That's a good question. So, okay, if you now put yourself back in the shoes, I wonder if you were going to. If you were on death row, your dying words, I know we laughed a little bit ago about what you would say, but what would you actually say on if you were a death row inmate?
Did I kill somebody?
You were 100% guilty, you accepted it, and, you were ready to go.
I mean, I would probably say sorry to the family. I don't know if you can forgive me. Hopefully this will help you find peace in your heart. I love my family. God forgive me.
That's a good answer. That's way better than my answer.
Roll on, boss. Roll on, boss.
I think I'm the kind of guy who I'm very willing to accept what I did and take responsibility for it, but I'm also not the kind of guy who's always looking for forgiveness. Rarely am I looking for forgiveness.
So you might be just like, fuck it.
Exactly, and I would honestly, my words would probably be, if the family were there in attendance, I would probably tell the family to go fuck themselves.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
They deserved it. Whoever I killed deserved it.
Yeah,
that's wrong.
Your husband or whatever totally deserved to die. He was, I would be very and especially if the kids were there and if they were young kids and I'm about to die anyways, I would probably try to scar those kids and say, your dad cried as I, as I murdered him. Yeah. I would
as I stuck my member down his throat.
No.
Oh, you wouldn't do that?
I didn't rape the guy.
Oh.
I don't think. Did I?
Well, in my mind, for your crime you did.
In your mind, my crimes committed
That's how you killed that person, yeah.
Involve gay sodomy.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so here's a question. You're on death row. Your last meal, what is it?
Yeah, I've never actually thought of that. Broken glass.
Broken glass, that's what you're asking for. I could see Tom Miller asking for broken glass.
A bowl of broken glass with milk, and I would eat it like cereal. There was a guy who recently, well, I don't know how recently, there was a guy who his final meal was actually a Bible. He asked them to bring him a Bible for his final meal, and he ate it. The whole Bible.
Wow.
That guy is a champion.
Did you ever hear the story about the big fat dude that requested a baby? A small child?
Did they deliver?
No.
Oh, well, that's a shame. What did he end up getting?
Like the regular routine, like eggs and steak. And that's Texas doesn't do it anymore.
Oh, really?
Because they had an inmate that requested all this food, and it was like a buffet style food, and then when they brought it to him, he refused to eat it. That's ultimate rebel. That's
impressive.
When do you get your last meal? Is it the day before? Or is it the
question.
morning up? Because I'll tell you this much. I don't know how much of an appetite I have anyways. Or do you get it like the week before? That would be the better. Because at least then you wouldn't be as nervous.
Well, it's your last meal, so
I know.
I don't know.
And what if it's a shit?
Then you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it anyways when you die. You know what I mean? When you die, your bowels kind of just clean themselves out. So you're not going to be releasing that food.
I hope I die on my back, so I have a raging boner just sticking up.
A condemned prisoner's last meal is a customary ritual preceding execution. Various countries have various traditions in this regard. A little glass of rum, but no formal last meal, was granted to the condemned in historical France. In the minutes before execution, no meal was offered as the condemned learned of their impending execution only on the fatal morning, generally just minutes in advance. Let's see.
You might have to Google when does one get their last meal.
That's what I did.
Oh.
In the United States, most states give the meal a day or two before the execution, like you said. Okay, so, and use the euphemism special meal. Alcohol or tobacco are usually denied. Unorthodox or unavailable requests are replaced with substitutes. Some states place tight restrictions. In Florida, the food for the last meal must be purchased locally, and the cost is limited to $40. In Oklahoma, cost is limited to $15.
Mike, get me a Big Mac, small, a regular Big Mac meal with an apple pie.
So just don't get brought up for anything in Oklahoma. In Louisiana, the prison warden traditionally joins the condemned prisoner for their last meal.
Like, is that who you want to eat with?
I guess.
I want to eat with my family, if they would let me.
Maybe you can have maybe a lot of them have the warden wear, like, a wig and pretend to be their wife.
Can I touch your breastbone with my food?
Can I rub your ribbons on your uniform?
Because I've looked into a lot of the last meals, like especially last meals of serial killers.
So now we know it's usually a day or two before the execution, and it's called the special meal, not the last meal anymore.
But
what a John Wayne Gacy. He had a dozen deep fried shrimp
and KFC,
a bucket of original recipe KFC.
How do I know this? Because I've read this stuff over and over again.
French fries and a pound of strawberry. How do you memorize these?
You know why he had KFC? Because he was a manager of KFC for a long time.
Was he?
Yep.
Good for him.
Hit me with another one, another famous one.
Who is another? Timothy McVeigh. I wonder if his is on.
He had 2 pints of mint ice cream. Find him.
Yep, you're right. Mint ice cream, mint chocolate chip ice cream. Ted Bundy.
He had the routine last meal, which would have been eggs and steak, and like a slice of pie and stuff along that manner.
Yeah, he didn't eat it.
No, he didn't.
But it was a traditional steak, eggs, hash browns, toast, milk, coffee, juice, butter, and jelly.
Yeah. You know what kind of jelly it was?
What?
Marmalade or whatever. Marmalade.
What about Gary Gilmore?
That guy is not famous enough for me.
He had a hamburger and hard-boiled eggs. But he was also firing squad. Neat. Who's another one? Just give me another serial killer.
I know there was one guy that ate his meal and requested to watch the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. And they granted it.
I don't see why not. I mean, that's hard. That's a hard thing to put yourself in that situation. Like, what do you do with your final 24 hours?
I think it depends on the person.
No, what do you, I'm asking you. What would you do with
repent.
if you were in?
Repent.
You would just spend 24 hours repenting.
Probably, yeah. I mean, if you're a religious person, and as you know, people go to jail, prison, and they find God. It's what they do. It's like that in a county jail. It's definitely like that in prison, and I would say it's definitely like that on death row.
Oh, sure.
So I'd probably just repent. At that point, your wife's probably left you. If you're on death row, I'm sure she's not sticking by your side.
Yeah.
You're pretty much shunned. If you're lucky, your family comes and sees you. I know they allow that. There's a period of time that they allow a death row inmate to spend like actual hand-to-hand FaceTime with their family. I think it's like a week before or something like along those lines. But I think a lot of those guys are lucky if they get that, because a lot of them
are total sleazebags.
Yeah, and their families have completely disowned them at this point. Like, look, Ted Bundy's mom insisted that he was innocent, even
though he was like straight up like, oh no, I totally hate all those people.
He eventually admitted to it, because when Ted Bundy was in prison, he helped them solve a murder. Did you know that?
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, there was I can't remember it was like a famous murder case, and he helped the detective profile this person and help put this person behind bars. I mean, Ted Bundy, it was like the Blue River Murder or something.
He was an odd duck.
Ted Bundy was very smart.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But most smart people are a little bit odd. Was he? Who was the one that raped a bunch of dudes?
Yeah, he helped the Green River Murderer. You ever heard of that? Mm-mm. Green River Murderer. The Green River Killer is what they called him. He helped the detective while he was in prison. He helped this detective solve this murder.
That's neat. He was a good-looking guy for the 70s or whatever.
Oh yeah, he killed.
That's what they were saying. Is a bunch of chicks were said he was like really charismatic and everything. Yeah.
He was like a pulp. Like, even when he was on trial, there would be women outside of his trials, like with signs
swooning and stuff.
That were swooning and stuff. And a lot of people didn't think it was him until they matched those bite marks up, and he eventually admitted to it.
Look at him, he's sitting here in the courtroom. He's just like, you can tell he's just like, yeah, I did it. I mean, what are you?
When he was ultimately sentenced, the judge, the last thing the judge said to him was, "You're a fine, smart man, and it's unfortunate that you're in the situation you're in, because you would have been a damn good lawyer, and I would have enjoyed working with you."
That's wild.
And this dude was a mass murderer.
Well, that's the thing about... Yeah.
Most serial killers are very intelligent people. Like,
yeah, they are.
There's a...
you don't get to that point without being really smart.
Like, there's a... there's like this belief that they're all dumb white cracker hillbillies.
No, those are your your mass murderers, or your
like,
one time
walk into a school with a gun.
Not your serial killers are very meticulous, and if you get to a point where you are labeled and as a serial killer, you've got to be pretty smart to get to that point, because they've linked you as like you don't get labeled as serial killer, or two killings don't get linked together without you leaving some kind of trace. Because if I were to kill somebody in Missouri and I were to zip over to Oregon and kill somebody, even if it was the same exact type of person, like everything was exactly the same, they're not going to make that connection right off the bat. But later on, I'm going to go get a third one, and it's going to fit the same thing. Or I'm going to leave a calling card, or I'm going to leave something and that's where the thrill comes in, is when they're being pursued, and when they're being, a lot of them, when they, can stand there in crowds around the crime, that's where the thrill comes from for a lot of these guys.
I saw a study where they say right now in America, there's probably anywhere between, I think it was like 10 to 20 or more active serial killers in America that we don't even know about. That is like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, if you're killing all across the country, it can take a while
for you to pair them up.
Pair them all and figure it all out. So at any given time in America, there's 10 to 20 active. Because to be considered a serial killer, all you have to do is kill 3 people.
Yeah.
It's like 3 people. Once you've murdered 3 people, that's serial killer labeling. And you could stop at that point
and be a serial killer. It would be like typically a person who murders 3 or more people, just for confirmation purposes. But no, I totally agree.
So you want to kill just 2 people.
But there was, you're still going to jail for 2 life sentences, and back to back. But no, that's what's interesting about that is I was watching Mind Reader. What's that show that's on Netflix now, where it was like the FBI? Mindhunter. But he goes and he studies this serial killer who's in jail, and the guy, he even says, the serial killer, he says, then it was all new. Like, serial killing was a new thing, and they had never heard of, or they had never dealt with it, and they had never talked to anybody who was a serial killer. And the dude leans back in his chair and he says, I'd say there are about 30 of us out there. And that was his answer, because he's like, I'm not the only one. He's like, there's about 30 of us, I would say. But yeah, interesting stuff. So what the hell are we talking about? We're talking about executions, right?
Yeah, but
We kind of went off on a tangent. So we talked about the last meal. What was your last meal? What did you decide?
I didn't
You
say
didn't?
yet.
Well, let's have it.
Yours would be glass. and a
Broken
bowl.
glass and a bowl of milk.
Legitly.
Yeah.
You need to see a psychiatrist.
Yes.
We'll talk.
But no, I mean, if I were a killer on death row who was about to, be at the.
But let's say it's you. We're talking Tom Miller right now.
How did I end up on death row, though?
It doesn't matter. You killed somebody.
Okay, so I'm a crazy person.
Okay. Well,
So
okay.
I would eat broken glass and a bowl of milk. Just to be a dick.
I would have crab legs, a New York strip steak, medium rare. See, mine's legit.
If I'm gonna play it off, I'm gonna play it off like a total crazy.
Why are you gonna play it off? At this point, you're done. You're done already.
Well, then I'm gonna die from ingesting broken glass.
They will deny your meal.
Well, then I'll eat. Then I'm gonna eat.
You're gonna get the bowl of milk.
Burger and no, it's gonna be a burger and eggs over here, steak and eggs over easy.
And lasagna. I want some lasagna.
You are well past your $40.
Cheesy gordita crunch. Cheesy gordita crunch.
Okay. You see, your meal sounds good. Mine, I want to go out as a hero. You know what I mean?
There was a guy that was on death row that requested three 2-liters because his plan was to drink himself into a diabetic shock. Seriously, he wanted to try
awesome.
to kill himself by going into diabetic shock.
That's awesome.
But here's the thing. If your thought is, I'm not going to let them kill me, I'm just going to kill myself, just hang yourself.
Sometimes you can't.
Oh, you can. There's always a way to kill yourself.
Not if they give me those. Look, at this point, I have already made the case that I am a crazy person. And they're going to put me in one of those turtle shells, and they're going to make me
You
wear...
could jump right straight up in the air, right straight up in the... You could jump right straight up in the air and land right on your neck.
But I might not.
The worst happens, are they gonna execute a paralyzed guy?
Yes.
There's a fight the system, man.
I would, I don't know. I would much rather go... Because there's nothing interesting about that. Oh, he jumped off of his bed and broke his neck.
I would be singing as they're executing me.
Yeah, I would, if I was buckled down in a chair, like if I was being electrocuted, I would turn my hands up and do the middle fingers to the family.
Like, where the bad folks go when they die?
I would be that guy.
Yes, so sing that song. Or sing, lollipop, lollipop, oh, lolly, 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 lollipop.
You didn't even do it.
I can't do it.
I got it. I got you covered.
Lollipop, lollipop, oh, lolly, lollipop, lollipop. Yes.
Boom.
I would need you in the crowd.
Duet. Oh, believe me, if you were on death row and you were about to be executed, I would be in the crowd for you.
My last words would be,
Tom, how many fingers?
tell me how many fingers.
I would press my unclothed nipple against the glass for you, so that would be the last thing you'd have to see.
You had me at nipple.
You had me at nipple, Dustin. All right, let's get to talking about what we're supposed to be talking about here. So, I guess we have been.
Yeah.
What else?
I've been wanting to talk about serial killers forever.
Well, we're there. What I'd hoped to do was I'd hoped to take basically all the links showing, all these stories about how long the head survives after it's decapitated. And, I mean, there's a lot of different links that talk about it. and I wanted to kind of compile them because nobody wants to be searching all over God's green goodness for, information when they could just have you and me talk about it.
Sure.
Make a mockery of it.
Because they didn't search us. They accidentally found us.
Yeah. No.
So they're not wanting to search a bunch of stuff.
And maybe what they do is they ask the question to Google, hey, how long does the head stay alive after you chop it off? You Had Me at Bigfoot covered this, and they did a really damn good job.
Yeah.
Right?
You had me at head loss.
You had me at severed head.
I don't agree with you. I don't agree with that at all.
I like it. How you had me at severed head? That sounds like some kind of voodoo thing. Oh boy. So the question is, and I know the answer because I've been reading about it. So I'm gonna let you take a guess. How long does the head stay alive after you lop it off?
11 seconds.
Close.
Am I close?
You are close. You're very close.
14 seconds.
Warmer.
16 seconds.
You're there. It's 15 to 20 seconds. That's
really?
how long? Yeah. The head can continue to live for 15 to 20 seconds after it is lopped off. Now, your consciousness. How long are you still aware of what's going on?
7 seconds.
Wrong.
Less or more?
Less. Yeah, it's less.
Oh, 4 seconds.
4 seconds is the answer. That's scientifically, and that's not just Tom Miller, crazy tinfoil hat guy talking. That's science talking. Your head will survive because what happens when your head is removed? You still have blood in your head, kind of sloshing around.
Do you think it works the same way as when you die?
I think it depends on how you die. When your heart stops, I think it's the same thing. Because your heart stops. That's what I was getting at. Is when your head is lopped off, blood flow to your brain is no longer. It's not happening. So your brain can survive for that 15 to 20 seconds without new blood, without oxygenated blood. So when your heart stops beating, you stop producing oxygenated blood to your brain. So, again, you have 15 to 20 seconds of your brain still operating after your heart stops. 4 seconds of consciousness. So that means you're conscious, like whatever your existence, your soul, your consciousness, what the Scientologists would call your thetan, it exists for 4 seconds after you die. And, That's kind of what got me interested because it's that's really weird to think about. Like if your head comes off, that's one thing, your head drops to the ground and you're there. Like if you've ever been gassed to sleep or if you've ever been knocked out by like an IV or whatever, there's that point where you kind of you go out, right? But there's a point too where you're no longer really moving around, where especially in the gassing phase, like if you're gassed to sleep, I think I talked about this before, like when I was gassed to sleep one time, it was like my vision got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, like I was sinking back into my own body, like that movie Get Out or whatever. But it was very much like that. I imagine that's kind of what dying would be like. Your consciousness is still there.
Died before?
But I've never died before, unfortunately. Otherwise, when it happens, I'll be sure to report back to you guys.
Please too.
But yeah, I think that's what happens is your vision, it kind of tunnels out smaller and smaller until your existence shrinks into nothingness.
I know they say, like you've heard that, like the light, you see the light?
Yeah.
That's something that's been proven that really happens, right? I've read this. That scientists, doctors believe that when you die, it's the light, there's a light that you see and it's your brain cells exploding.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh.
And that's why you hear a lot of people with near-death experiences saying that they saw a light. You know what I'm saying? It was their brain cells exploding.
They found, on average, a person experiences about 4 different phenomena during the experience. I guess of dying.
Because it's such an experience.
Yes. No, it's okay. So in order to do this, the research examined 154 first-hand accounts from individuals who had gone through near-death experiences, but survived, in order to analyze which different aspects each person had encountered. They found that on average, a person experiences about 4 different phenomena during the experience. Most frequently reported being a feeling of peacefulness, 80%. Seeing a bright light, like you said, 69%. And encountering with spirits or people, 64%. The 2 most uncommon experiences were speeding thoughts and precognitive visions, both 5 and 4 respectively.
I'll say this. I had a near-death experience once.
Is that right?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I got ran over by a van. Like, legitly. In the hospital parking lot at St. Elizabeth, Edgewood. It was raining. I told my mom I'd go. She had me up there. I had some tests done for allergies. I told my mom that I would go unlock the door. It was raining. So I took off running across the parking lot. I slipped and fell and slid. And the van didn't see me, and they ran right over top of me.
Oh.
And I'll say this. In that moment, I'll remember this. I'll never forget it. I at that moment thought, well, this is how I'm going to die. And I was completely at peace with it. Like, okay, this is how I'm going to die. Like, whatever. Like, completely at peace. I wasn't scared. But I remember thinking to myself, this is it. This is how I'm dying. You know? And I was just a kid.
Huh.
So that's funny that, you know.
Being at peace.
Yeah.
So what you were saying about the brain cells dying and everything, one of the things that this Psychology Today, they said death is no longer a specific moment in time, such as when the heart stops beating, respiration ceases, or when the brain no longer functions. For many minutes and hours, a dead brain that has been cooled can be restored. Death is a process that can be interrupted well after it has begun. So that would make sense what you were saying. It's a period of time as opposed to. So again, what we were talking, how that applies to what we were talking about is, you know, there's a length of time in which your brain is still operational, and you know, your consciousness. But that's the tough part. And a lot of the stuff about neuroscience is that it's very like hard to kind of pinpoint what drives your, because your brain operates your body, but what operates your brain? That's your existence, whatever you might consider that to be. So what, and that's where neuroscience is struggles, is what is your consciousness? Like, what is that? Like the crazy people like to say, I know that doesn't mean much, me saying the crazy people, let's say the astrology people, they say it's your pineal gland, is like, it's very deep into your pineal gland. Yeah. I don't know how, I think that's how it's pronounced.
Press my pineal gland?
I'm not trying to press anybody's pineal gland.
Would you like to?
Pineal gland. What did I say?
Pineal?
What function is the pineal gland in the endocrine system? The functions of the last discovered. Located deep in the center of the brain, the pineal gland was once known as the third eye.
Look, man.
See, now it's starting to turn really sexual in nature. It produces melatonin, which helps maintain circadian rhythm and regulate reproductive hormones. So I guess it does have a lot to do with your
penile.
Your penile. What is the meaning of third eye? This is about Hinduism and stuff. But that's where a lot of the New Age spirituality people, they were saying that your existence was part of your third
snowflakes.
eye. Yeah, like all the people that put the chakras on themselves, they rub the chakras on them. On their pineals.
Their own chakras.
They rub their chakras on pineal glands. But yeah, that's so anyways, your existence, like whatever your existence is, your consciousness, that's that exists for 4 seconds after your head gets lopped off. So whether or not you can, and all your stuff that you need to perceive stuff is in your brain anyways. So I mean, can you see stuff? Can you hear stuff? Can you smell, taste, feel, whatever? And that's, I guess we can probably get into a lot of that. There are several stories where they talk about how people have, after their head was lopped off, but they start to feel, or they continue to feel, see, or smell, taste, make googly eyes, stick their tongues out. show people their pineal glands. All right, so let's talk decapitation. All right.
Are we talking executions or decapitations?
We're talking about decapitation. Well, it's the same thing. I mean, we're going to talk about. We're not talking about like the ISIS kind of crude decapitation. Hacking at somebody.
We're going to talk about guillotine.
We are going to talk about the guillotine and the that big giant like executioner with the mask on
with
who
the big
has got
axe.
the giant 2-sided axe, and he would just hook those dudes up. It looks like Charlotte Corday was executed by guillotine for the assassination of Jean-Paul Marat.
Yeah, but that guy had it coming.
Radical journalist,
Yep.
politician, and revolutionary. Some of these people would disagree with you because he was actually well liked for his ideas, and the mob awaiting the guillotine was eager to see Corday pay. After the blade dropped and Corday's head fell, one of the executioner's assistants picked up the head and slapped its cheek. According to, I guess, that'll show her.
Yeah.
According to witnesses, Corday's eyes turned to look at the man, and her face changed to an expression of indignation.
What's that expression?
It's kind of like, well, I never.
Can you make the face for me? Huh. Can you imagine a head doing that to you? I'd drop it.
Well, here we go.
Hey.
It's DJ Tolerance.
You're on the air.
You're on the air. Hello?
I beat you that time. You interrupted. We're in the middle of a story. We're covering executions, but specifically decapitation and how long the head stays alive after it's lopped off.
You specifically called me into an episode about my least favorite thing in the world.
Well,
What?
yeah, James doesn't like to get his head lopped off, apparently.
If it's like a quick, smooth one, like Final Destination or, something like that, then I'd be okay with it. But if it's like an ISIS or a jihadist, nah, I'd rather not.
How long does your head stay alive, or how long does the brain stay alive after the head has been removed?
Are we talking me or the rest of humanity?
Both. Let's hear it both, respectively.
For me, it's eternally. My head just stays alive forever and laughs at them
Why is that?
because I'm awesome.
Because a witch cursed you? A voodoo priestess cursed you?
But the rest of humanity, I'd say probably like 5 seconds.
And you would be wrong, but as a good guess. The brain actually stays alive for 15 to 20 seconds.
Holy cow. So I
But-
have to put up with not having a head that long?
No, your consciousness...
Or a body?
Your consciousness... yeah, your head no longer has the ability. See, you're already at a point where it would have been more advantageous for your head to remain on your shoulders because you have no idea what you're talking about at that point. Like, where's my head? You are the head. But your consciousness only survives for 4 seconds. Anyways, but we were actually talking about this Corday character. And yeah, she made this face of indignation. Following the incident, people executed by guillotine during the revolution were asked to blink afterwards. The witnesses claim that the blinking occurred for up to 30 seconds. So there were some people who, like James, continued to live on past
How crazy would that be? To have 30 seconds of consciousness. First of all,
how crazy would it be to see a severed head
Just
blinking? Just constantly blinking at you. And you happen to be front row center and they're looking at you the whole time.
I would get tired of blinking.
Can you blink for 30 seconds? Without getting tired? Maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's why they stopped at 30.
Yeah, and they're really...
Because they hit muscle failure, eyelid muscle failure.
And like, their head stayed alive forever.
Their head stayed alive for another 30 seconds, and they're trying to muster up the... Hey! You can do it! And you've got like the personal trainer sitting next to him, crouched down. Dude, give me one more!
I want to make this face if I get my head lopped off.
Dustin is making a very
That's a good
sexy
one.
face. No, he's got his eyes open as wide as possible, eyebrows up, and he's got his mouth open, and he's sticking his tongue out like
a snake.
yeah, kind of like a blah 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 blah.
I wanna see the personal trainer go, give me one blink for the commandant, one for the Corps.
One for the Corps. I guess the Corps don't get theirs. One for continuing existence. Well, I guess continuing existence doesn't get theirs.
What if the body just like he started to get exhausted from blinking, and the body just put up like a one finger for like, give me a minute.
Hold on.
In the back.
Hold on, I'm working on it. give me a second.
Get me close enough to my body.
Another often told tale of demonstrated consciousness following beheading dates to 1905. French physician Dr. Gabriel
Guggenheim.
That's how his name's pronounced. It's pronounced like a fart. Witness the
Excuse me,
beheading.
Professor.
That's not his name. It was Gabriel. Gabriel. Witnessed the beheading of a man named Languille. Everyone's last name in France was just that noise. He wrote that immediately afterwards, the eyelids and lips worked in irregularly rhythmic contractions for about 5 or 6 seconds. Dr. called out the name and said that the eyelids slowly lifted up without any spasmodic contraction, and that his pupils focused themselves. This happened a second time, but the third time spoke, he got no response. So apparently this dude was only able to recognize and look at the good doctor twice. And then the third time it just wasn't, he didn't have it in him. That's that for that one.
Here's an interesting fact.
What do you got?
If you go on death row in Japan, they don't tell you your date of execution.
Is that right?
Yeah. So like you have to live life not knowing if the next day of life will be your last day of life. Think about that.
That's depressing.
I know.
Could you imagine the guards, like they go and they're like, all right, it's time. And then they handcuff them and they take them. They take them
to get a shower.
They take them
On your feet.
You ruined it.
Okay.
We stole your joke.
Here's the question, Jameis.
What?
Your last words, what are they?
I hope Tom's next.
Fair enough. your last meal, what is it?
I don't know. Probably steak.
Yeah.
I'm boring. I'm just gonna do what everyone else probably does.
Well, that's the standard, yeah.
Old J Mill here would be broken glass covered in milk.
That's what mine was. Mine was going to be broken glass in a bowl with milk so that I could eat it like cereal and hopefully end up just tearing myself up on the inside. And then they'll be like, this guy is in no condition to be executed anyways. Plus, he's crazy. Why would you give him a bowl of broken glass?
I want my last meal to be a bag of dicks.
I mean, that's like your last. That's like your regular snack.
Yeah, I have that twice a day.
That's your special meal.
And why did you just look behind me like you saw something?
Maybe because I saw something.
Yeah, you did, didn't you? Because you looked straight up back like you saw something.
Did I?
Yes.
It was unintentional. Maybe I'm a severed head and I'm just looking indignantly, whatever that word was. All right, moving on. So it says here, this doctor, and just so that we have some kind of like information to back this up, and you're not just hearing Tom Miller, crazy guy, saying it. It says here, Dr. Harold Hillman says that consciousness only lasts probably 2 to 3 seconds due to a rapid fall of intracranial perfusion of blood. So that's his answer. We're going to hear a couple different answers, otherwise. But cut off from the heart and therefore from oxygen, the brain immediately goes into a coma and begins to die. So that's, again, so we have some kind of like information other than something that I, am telling you, oh, I totally read this, it's real. at least there are names attached to it now.
Can I ask a question that I don't know if you guys already went over or not?
Yeah.
And I think it's probably on everyone's mind. How big is Howard Stern's penis?
Oh, jeez, gosh, click.
No,
Like, this is the kind of show that would get turned off by that sort of...
It's worth a Google. I'm Googling it.
I think he said it. He talks about how small his penis is, or like how, average, I guess. He does.
no, my real question was, so if your body, or if your brain can survive that long, well, any amount of time, do you feel pain?
Yeah, they said that anything that I've read so far about decapitation, it's been very clear that decapitation is an absolutely super painful way to go.
His penis is 6 inches, and that's erect.
So yeah, he's actually above average, I think.
He's average.
Is that what
says average?
Is that what the average penis length is? That's probably a disappointment for you to hear, James, isn't it?
That's average? I was hoping I was average, but I guess I'm above average.
So according to a new study, the average worldwide penis size is 5.16 inches long and 4.6 inches
Wait,
in girth.
inches or centimeters?
Inches.
Oh.
James has just signed off on the call. All right, enough talking about penises. Let's get back to talking about what really matters. Decapitation of the penis.
Of the wiener.
All right, so I like this one. We're on Viral Nova, which sounds like a super, reputable source anyways. Anything with the word viral or Nova in it, like I'm very leery about, and this one has both. But it says right off the bat, it says decapitation leads to certain death. Which, if there was any doubt in your mind about, what comes after decapitation, now you know. Viral Nova has told you.
I mean, in Wolfenstein, the new Colossus, he lived. Carry on.
Is that a thing? I haven't played that game yet.
Well, yeah, spoiler alert, but you get decapitated by a guillotine, and then they catch your head, and they end up fitting it onto a, they have just a few seconds or whatever, and they fit it onto a body and keep you alive with a new body.
Well, good. That's good.
But it backs up what, all these scientists are saying. I'm glad these scientists have been backed up by a video game.
Yeah, so decapitation leads to certain death, it turns out, according to Viral Nova, and Viral Nova alone, making a bold claim here. There's no argument in the scientific community that decapitation can somehow be survived by humans. What? There's really no argument in the scientific community that decapitation can somehow be survived by humans. Okay. If you lose your head, you are definitely a goner. But how long? Let's talk decapitation science. It's a hotly debated aspect of decapitation. Most scientists say no, but then again, no one has ever been able to interview a decapitated survivor about this. There is some speculation that it is possible for consciousness to continue in the head even after it's severed from the body. The reason why is the blood in the brain can stay oxygenated for up to 12 seconds with no circulation. Theoretically, that temporarily oxygenated blood would allow the brain to keep functioning. While this phenomenon has never been directly observed by modern scientists, there are plenty of stories throughout history of severed heads opening their eyes and looking around. Now, it's funny that while we're on this topic where it says it's not been observed by modern scientists, there's actually a study that was done on rats, of course, since everything's done on rats, lab rats, lab mice, and they've discovered what they call a death roll, where when they monitor the brain, there's a line of electricity that just goes over the whole brain after about, it's around 15 seconds. It just rolls over the brain, and that's the death roll, is what they call it, where as it passes over the brain, it's almost like wiping the hard drive, where just at that point it's like, well, that's it. The brain doesn't come back from that. And that's actually relatively recent. I read about that. So that's probably very similar to what we see here with it, the 12 seconds. So interestingly enough, it says beheading is actually the most humane execution method.
How?
While a beheading is a savage thing to witness, it is actually considered by many to be the most humane form of execution because death occurs so quickly. I mean, relatively, I guess. Beheading isn't entirely painless, though. It's thought by many researchers that there must be at least some sharp, acute pain felt when the head is severed, though for obvious reasons they have not been able to prove it. There are two types of decapitation, internal and external. External is the one that we're familiar with, where the outside force severs the head from the body. Internal decapitation, though, is much rarer and interesting. When someone is internally decapitated, their skull is severed from their spinal column, but it is still attached to the body. This can be caused accidentally during a severe head trauma or intentionally. In fact, the act of hanging relies on the mechanism of internal decapitation to ensure the victim dies quickly. While it might seem impossible, there have been a handful of times in recent history where people have survived internal decapitation. Cool.
That's weird. I never knew that hanging was a form of decapitation.
Yep, that's how hanging works. They
I thought
don't
it
want
just,
you
like,
to
broke
choke
the
to
neck.
death. They want your neck to break and decapitate from its body. That's why they drop you like that.
But there's a fun fact for you is there's a reason why. Have you ever wondered why they say that the death sentence is to be hanged by the neck until dead?
Until dead, yeah.
Because it used to be you will be hanged by the neck. And some really light, skinny chick was dropped from the gallows and she survived the drop. So that she had served her sentence, they cut her down and let her go. And that was it. So they were like, well, we need to change the terminology on that one. Executioners in France were celebrities. Did you know that?
Yes.
As the guillotine grew in popularity in France during and after the Revolution, its operators became celebrities. Typically, the job of state executioner was a family business in France. For years, the role was passed down from father to son in the infamous Sanson family. In the late 1800s, a father-son duo, Louis and Anatole Diebler, conducted state executions.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the right corner, your guillotine operator, Louis, the guillotine.
The executioner with the mooses. The sultan of the swing.
Woke up in 1701. Guillotine.
Had an axe in my hand, had a ready to fight, whatever. I want a double cheeseburger and all the lettuce. Don't be fretting, son, no seeds on the bun.
Why did you ever get out of the rap game, James?
Yeah. What happened to the rap game?
I'm still in it, man. I'm just not. I'm retired.
Was it all the drive-by shootings?
There's only one way
No,
out of the
it's-
rap game.
Yeah.
I make
Body
beats. I had a
bag,
couple
son.
of dudes over that was supposed to be pretty good at rapping, but they sucked.
Do you guys gangbang and stuff?
Did you?
Yeah. All-
different
all
type of
day,
gang
day,
banging. Did you, when they showed up, did you try to rap battle them?
I did, and I won.
Good.
Why are we recording on a Tuesday?
Good question.
Timing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was confused when he texted me because I was on my way to the gym.
Did you stop and come
listen
home?
to this guy. Listen to the guy.
I gotta go home.
He's like, we're talking about, he's probably never been to the gym before in his life, and he's like, oh, I was totally on my way to the gym and donating to charity.
No, remember I started going to the gym on December 31st. Just so on
you could
January
say that
1st.
you weren't one of those New Year, New Me guys.
Yeah, I could be like, look at all these the New Year resolution losers, right?
Yeah.
Dude, you just started yesterday.
All right, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to pause the show here, and then we'll pick it up another day. And I'll just edit it out so it sounds like we just continued straight through.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of You Had Me at Death Row. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, @YouHadMePodcast. Email the show, contact@youhadmeatbigfoot.com. Find all the show's information on our website at youhadmeatbigfoot.com. Remember to tell your friends about the show. If you don't, we'll find you and key your car.
It's DJ Tolerance.